Hello, and welcome to another episode of Torsion Talks Politics about Mordred's community multiplayer. Special guest joining us for the first half of today's episode, Legit Player. Legit, welcome to the program.
Hello, happy to be here.
So, for those of you not aware, Legit Player is our Brandenburg player for the session. He started off a little bit slow, but was able to secure the vassalage over Wolgast, participated in the Lithuania War, and has now established a HRE treaty. Legit, could you tell us a little bit about this treaty that yourself, Bohemia, and Naples entered into today?
Yeah, so the treaty, when an outside power reads it, might seem to them as something strong, but from my point of perspective, it's an defensive treaty for the HRE members, where if an outside threat or an inside threat attacks someone, uh, one of those members, then Emperor helps them. Same goes for the members. If the Emperor is attacked, they come to the Emperor's rescue. That might be sending men to fight as conditiari. Price depends on alliance limits. As we know, if you pay 50%, then it doesn't count as alliance, so that might impact it. Also, it may be subsidies or just giving gifts or just being full in the war as an ally.
And this treaty was entered into by Brandenburg, Bohemia, and Naples. There are 4 other players in the HRE in Lubeck, Brunswick, Holland, and Switzerland. Are they allowed to join the treaty if they agree to its original terms, or is this only between the 3 original signatories?
This treaty was made because me and Bohemia invited Naples to join the HRE. We are open with other treaties with other HRE members, but those would have to be separate treaties since we didn't want to make the treaties long and with too many points. So different individuals might want different things in the treaties. We didn't want to account for that, so we just made a treaty that would depend on us 3.
Okay, makes sense. And I guess the question on everyone's mind as we look at Brandenburg, you participated in the war with Poland against Lithuania. That was a long and drawn out war. Are you getting the provinces you need to form Prussia in return for your help in that war?
I am getting the provinces I need to form Prussia, yes.
Okay. And from your perspective, how did that war go?
I messed up a little bit, but from my point of view, it went decently well. I got the Naumark event when I was on siege with 47% success possibility, and whilst I got the event, they came out of fog of war. Yes, sorry, I'm lagging a little bit, but as I said, the Volgastians came out of the fog, so they got my army, and that made me join the war against Lithuania a bit delayed. So yeah, I messed up a little bit, but I believe that we did a good war.
And for those of you who were watching the stream, you saw Lithuania fought off for a long time, ended up having to unconditionally surrender to Poland. Looks like the Teutonic Order, some land has split off. Smolensk split off due to rebels. Chernigov here split off due to rebels. So Lithuania, dead man walking.
Yeah, so the war would have been much quicker because the first big battle on Polish land in the port was in matter of days of success. I was marching down as fast as I could with an 8k stack, but all of my armies would have been already in Poland if it wasn't for the unlucky event in Volgast. So that battle would have been won in our favor, and we wouldn't have had that problem.
And now we'll shift focus a little bit towards the west of Europe. Lubeck and Holland both grew quite a bit during the session. Brunswick grew a little bit. Um, these three, Brunswick, Holland, Lubeck, very close to each other. Potential areas of conflict. Do you see any war brewing between those three players?
Between those three players, I do not, because if you see the coast of Lubeck, the northern province that borders Brunswick, that country was originally fully occupied by Brunswick in the middle of the session. It was actually a deal that got Lubeck said province, and if they're making that type of deals, then I don't see them going to war anytime soon.
And our friends, the Swiss, allied with France and the Papal State, strong session out of them, good growth, taking out the three leagues. Any potential conflicts you see brewing between Switzerland and Bohemia as Bohemia starts to expand towards the Bavarian farmlands?
I don't believe that there's any conflict brewing with Switzerland, since they have already made a deal with Naples, and actually if you click on my diplomatic map mode, uh, then you can see my personal unions, and you'll see that Bohemia is actually going more in Austria-Hungary.
And you mentioned an alliance between Switzerland and Naples?
It's not an alliance, it's more of a deal that Switzerland isn't going in Italy. I believe it was in the treaty stub.
And then as we shift even further west, obviously the big surprise coming out of the session, England, our good friend Mindboy, had some connection issues. Ireland, having been threatened potentially by England previous to the session, took full advantage of their absence and expanded rapidly. Any tension you see with Mindboy coming back, having entered into this treaty with France, are we going to see some sort of Irish, Swedish, Castilian, Franco-English war?
Honestly, I'd say England is pretty much done. They have no path of expansion, and when they made the diplomatic comments to Ireland to basically get out or you're dead, and then didn't come here for the session, that made Ireland get enough time to make allies, to strengthen their own grip on the Isles. So don't. I'd say now it's turned the other way around. England has to get out of the Isles or they're dead.
I don't know. When we look at the economy of England, 25 ducats to 5 on the Irish, you look at force limit and manpower, England still has quite a bit of bite. It depends how much Castile and Sweden are willing to defend Ireland, their allies in the area.
Yeah, exactly. That's my main point. Ireland has allies because English people were aggressive. England doesn't have allies.
England has France now.
As far as I know. Yeah, I'll look at the treaty. Was it full on alliance?
I believe
or was
so,
it
yes.
non-aggression?
No, I believe it's a full alliance between the two.
Alright, then there's an alliance, but still I don't believe that at this stage in the game, before France gets a LAN, France outweighs both Castile and Sweden, especially since Castile already has Aragon, which isn't integrated yet, so the army size and manpower pool is separate.
Yeah. And we'll shift back to Eastern Europe for a moment here. We touched on Poland winning the Lithuanian War. Muscovy obviously had a good session with the Ryazan PU early on and a win over Novgorod. They were able to take some of the Lithuanian land when it broke free in the form of Smolensk. They expanded into Kazan. Is Poland still in a precarious position? You have Brandenburg, Bohemia, and Naples entering into a treaty. You have Muscovy and Sweden in a treaty. Is Poland going to be the odd man out, sandwiched between these two power blocks?
I'd say that's dependent on Poland themselves. I view them as an ally, and if they don't do anything to make me change my decision, then I will still view them as an ally. And if they don't have to worry about my border, then it's their game.
And as we look back at your diplomatic map mode, obviously you have some claims in the Prussian areas, the Danzig territory. You have quite a few claims through your personal unions down here in Würzburg, Thuringia, Mons, etc. Where are viewers going to look to see Brandenburg expand next session?
Right now, the two places you'll most likely see me expand is Stettin, which still isn't under my control, and the Teutons.
So no plans to expand your personal unions as of right now?
As of right now, it's dependent on the situation and the AI alliances, since I might want to help one of my allies out in a war or something like that. There's a possibility, but for certain I know I'm gonna expand into Stettin and Teutons.
And we're taking a quick glance now. Empire screen. Naples, you referenced, entered. Should they expect to become an elector if one slot becomes available?
Right now, yes.
Any word about Holland having any interest in an electorship so that they can form the Netherlands and remain in the Empire?
I personally haven't talked to the Holland's player, so if Kaiser has talked to them and agreed upon a deal, then I don't know about it as of yet.
And then one final question before we let you go. Brandenburg, if someone's watching the stream next Saturday and they see blue flames next to your name, who are you fighting?
Definitely not Poland and Bohemia.
You're not going to give us an answer?
As of right now, I don't have anything planned. There might be a defensive war. I might figure something out with my alliance block between this moment and the next session, but as of right now, I don't plan on anything.
And any final thoughts you'd like to share with our viewers?
I believe that it's pretty interesting to look at the Middle East and the Ottoman rise, but one thing I noticed is that Ottomans as of right now don't plan on going into Europe. You can see that as they cannot complete their mission in getting Greece, because Morea is a march, not a vassal, and there's no easy way for them to integrate them because of that, which means they would have to renounce the march status, which means that as of right now it seems as if Ottoman focus is to the east.
Well, thank you, Legit. We appreciate the insight, and we'll look forward to connect with you again after our next upcoming session.
Yeah, pleasure being here.
That was Legit Player joining us, our Brandenburg player. And now we'll switch focus, do a quick high-level overview of the happenings from the session. We'll focus on Europe, then transition into Asia. Sweden gained their independence and entered a treaty with Muscovy. This presents a pretty powerful bloc here, forming in what we'll call Northeast Europe. Munster, as we mentioned, took advantage of the absence of the English player and perceived hostility from that English player.
Unless you could.
Hello, everyone. We are now all in general.
Hello.
Oh, apologies about that. So, as I was saying, Munster expanded rapidly into the Scottish area. They also raised the black flag, becoming a pirate republic, which is a relatively unique position to be in, so that they can raid the entire English coast as well as some of the French. They entered into a treaty with Castile. Castile successfully executed the Iberian wedding, gaining Aragon as a PU. They also took out Morocco alongside Portugal in a quick and bloodless war, gaining a decent swath of North Africa. Naples gained its independence, taking down parts of Sicily. Genoa had a rough session. Sorry, Genoa. That must have been tough for you. We'll see if you're able to recover, but right now 99% occupied. It's not looking great. Switzerland, as we mentioned, strong session out of them, and then some expansion from Brunswick, Holland, and Lubeck as well. Now, I want to pivot, talk about the Mamelukes real quick. I noticed watching Mordred's VOD that there was some questions in chat about the level of debt that the Mamelukes went into at the beginning of their war. There's a term in EU4 multiplayers, it's called a death war. Essentially, you're fighting to the brink of bankruptcy because you know that your opponent is going to try to take 100% from you, and you know it's going to be very difficult to recover because you're going to be in a weaker position. Once that truce expires, they're going to be in a stronger one, and they're just going to come for you again and again. Because the Ottomans were the aggressor, the Mamelukes would be slowly losing territory, so the number of loans they could take out would decrease as the Ottomans sieged their land. So the Ottomans correctly took out max loans at the beginning of the war so that they'd be able to fight as long as possible. The one thing I think Val may have overextended on was their war against Karaman. When they successfully cut off the Ottoman expansion by taking out AQ and Dulkadir early on in the session, they should have just stopped there and focused on consolidating what they had taken. The war against Karaman just bled additional manpower and let the Ottomans put themselves in a position to quickly take advantage of that. Other than that, Val fought a valiant death war. On the losing side, had some difficulties due to certain players not showing up. I know there was talk of England and France helping out against the Ottomans. Timurids had some difficulty sorting out access to the Ottoman lands, which caused some issues. They joined that war extremely late. So great attempt by Val, very aggressive play, very well executed from a diplomatic perspective, just ran into some difficulties with the Timurids not being able to get there, with France and England not being able to get there. I think she did as well as could be expected. Oman finally broke out, took out Hormuz, and is growing nicely. Timurids expanding quite well. Gujarat, AI, Blue Kiwi expanded a bit, so that'll be nice to come back to. Bahmanis, Faceless, great session. He's established a little bit of a vassal swarm going for him right now. So he's got these 3 little vassals. He can grow them out. Each one of them has some cores or claims that could be taken. Took down Vijayanagar and I believe 2 wars, taking back all of his cores. He's got 1 core left, so great expansion by him. Southeast Asia. I'm going to call this area the Beach Boys. We've got Ayutthaya, Brunei, Madhya, and Tidoro. The 4 of them worked well together. Helsin actually spawning the Renaissance for the Beach Boys, so that you can see Brunei already has it. It's spreading in Ayutthaya. It's spreading in Tidoro. They're going to work closely together for now. We'll see what happens once land starts drying up or expansion routes become a little more difficult, but Beach Boys had a great session working together. And then in Asia, myself in Manchu, expanding quite a bit. Right now, have a couple vassals working on integrating Mongolia as Oirat, and then have a vassal in Chi. Manchu was able to jump over into Japan to establish a foothead, ate quite a bit of Korea, took out almost all of these horde tribes. So great session by Oirat and Manchu. High level. Last video, I said Western Europe looks like a snooze fest. We did not have a France player. We had an England player. England misses the first session. France is seeded. Ireland makes a very strong move. Western Europe is now my number one region to watch on the upcoming stream. There's going to be a lot of tension here, even if they all go colonial. Portugal, Castile, Munster, England, France. They're not, but even if they did, there would still be tension. I just don't see England and Munster surviving. I think one of them is going to win. One of them may go live in exile in the New World. Plenty of opportunity to do so. But I'm very interested in seeing what happens here next session. The next area to watch, obviously, the Middle East. Jamie showed why he's Jamie. Strong war as the Ottomans. Recovering pretty nicely. Still in a little bit of debt, but not insurmountable. Making some money. Val coming out of a bankruptcy. Recoverable, though. Timurids, very strong position. Mamelukes, diplomatically skilled. We'll continue to watch this area to see what happens. And thanks for joining, and tune in next week.